Jamal Jafar Muhammad Ali al-Ibrahim. At the time of his death, he was deputy chief of the PMC. Since 1977 he was an opponent of Saddam Hussein and rose quickly in the ranks due to his popular support amongst the people after the regime fell because of his role in the defeat of ISIS. He became the commander of many popular volunteer militias that grew from the need to combat ISIS, including the Kataib Hezbollah militia group, which is an Iranian government-designated terror organization, and prior to that worked with the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps against Hussein's regime. Allegations of terrorism have been leveled against him over his activities in Kuwait in the 1980s. He was sentenced to death in absentia in 2007 by a court in Kuwait for his involvement in the 1983 Kuwait bombings. Muhandis was on the United States list of designated terrorists. However, this has been disputed due to his role in combating the Ba'ath regime rather than supporting it. The charges were dropped when the new Iraqi government was formed in 2004. The organizations he oversaw, such as the Popular Mobilization Units, have been reported to have close links to the Quds Force, part of the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran. He was killed by a targeted U.S. drone strike at Baghdad International Airport on 3 January 2020, which also killed Iranian Armed Forces Major General Qasem Soleimani. Jamal Jafar al-Ibrahimi was born on 1 July 1954 in Abu al-Khasib district, Basra Governorate, Iraq, to an Iraqi father and an Iranian mother. He finished his studies in engineering in 1977 and in the same year joined the Shia-based Dawa party, which opposed the Ba'athist government. On 1979, after the activity of the Dawa party was banned and hundreds of opponents were sentenced to death by Saddam Hussein, al-Muhandis fled across the border to Ahwaz in Iran, where the Iranians had set up a camp to train Iraqi dissidents, with the aim of undermining Saddam. He was known as Jamal al-Ibrahimi in Iran and he became a citizen of Iran by marrying a woman. He began working with Iran's Revolutionary Guard in Kuwait in 1983, organizing attacks on embassies of countries that supported Saddam in the Iran-Iraq war. Hours after the December 1983 bomb attacks on US and French embassies in Kuwait, he fled to Iran. He was later convicted and sentenced to death in absentia by a court in Kuwait for planning the attacks. He was later appointed a military advisor to the Quds Force, advising on attacks against Iraqi military based in his hometown of Basra. He returned to Iraq following the US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003 and went on to serve as a security advisor to the first Iraqi prime minister after the invasion, Ibrahim al-Jafari. In 2005 he was elected to the Iraqi parliament as a Dawa party representative for the Babil Governorate. When US officials realized his identity and connection with the 1983 attacks, they raised the issue with then Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki in 2006 or 2007. He had to flee to Iran. He formed Kataib Hezbollah between 2003 and 2007. He returned to Iraq following the withdrawal of US troops to head the Kataib Hezbollah militia. He then became deputy chief of the Popular Mobilization Forces. On 31 December 2019, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo named al-Muhandis, along with Kisk Hazali, Hadi al-Amiri, and Fali al-Fayyad, as responsible for the attack on the United States Embassy in Baghdad. On 3 January 2020, al-Muhandis was killed along with Qasem Soleimani in a U.S. airstrike at Baghdad International Airport. After the formation of the Popular Mobilization Units as a group in 2014, he was appointed to command the group. The PMF group composed of some 40 militias that fought in nearly every major battle against ISIL. In 2009, al-Muhandis was sanctioned by the United States Department of the Treasury for allegedly helping the IRGC. Muhandis was also accused of being linked to the IJO who participated in 1983 United States Embassy bombing in Beirut. Abu Mahdi was killed on 3 January 2020 around 1 a.m. local time by missiles shot from American drones which targeted Qasem Soleimani and his convoy near Baghdad International Airport. BBC News, NBC News, DW News, Time, The Guardian and other media outlets have described the killing as an assassination. Palestinian Islamic Jihad group mentioned him as one of the symbols of Iraqi liberation from the U.S. occupation and also condolences to the Iraqi for the death of Abu Mahdi al Muhandis. On the 4th of January, a funeral procession for Abu Mahdi al Muhandis and Soleimani was held in Baghdad with thousands of mourners in attendance, waving Iraqi and militia flags and chanting, "Death to America! Death to Israel!" The procession started at the Al-Qadimiyah Mosque in Baghdad. Iraq's Prime Minister, Adil Abdul Mahdi, and leaders of Iran-backed militias attended the funeral procession. They were taken to the holy Shia cities of Najaf and Karbala where held funerals.